Have you ever told a lie and got caught in the middle of your lie, or after you lied, you got caught? I have to admit that I have, okay? So let me give you an example of when this happened to me. I remember when I was younger, I grew up in the country, okay? Like I grew up in the sticks. Like you think New Hope's the sticks? No, like when I grew up, no red lights, no nothing, it was the sticks, okay? So I grew up around like cats and BB guns. Like that's what I had at my disposal. And a lot of times I would use my BB gun to shoot cats. And one day I got bored at my grandmother's house shooting cats. And there was a screen door that they took off of my grandmother's house, and they were working on her door. And so they propped the screen door up against this fence. And I had the bright idea to take my BB gun and shoot the screen, because I'm thinking in my mind, my little, 8-year-old mind, that if I shoot this glass screen on this screen door, it would just put like a tiny hole, or even, better, it would just bounce off and it'd be cool. So I pumped my little pump action BB gun. Pumped it. I really pumped it. Shot the screen door, hoping that it would just bounce off. And can you guess what happened? Yes, the screen just shattered. And parts went everywhere. Glass was everywhere. And I'm sitting there with the BB gun in my hand, like in awe and in terror at the same time, thinking like, oh no, I'm in trouble. Well, of course, people hear this noise, and so immediately I hear people running to see what's going on, and I chunk my BB gun into some bushes, and I'm standing oh no, man, I can't believe that cat just ran into that screen door and broke it. And it's safe to say that nobody believed me, and so they told me wait till my uncle gets home, and basically I got a beating for breaking the screen door. And I cried and cried and cried. And I told myself I was running away. So, I ran into the woods for 10 minutes, got bored, and came back home. But it's very easy, right? We've all been in the position where we've told a lie and the truth eventually came out. Well, that's kind of the theme that we're going to talk about tonight, which is when the truth really comes out. And so if you were with us the last couple of weeks, we've been going through a series called Jesus Is. In the last couple of weeks, we talked about Jesus is God. And then last week we came back and talked about how Jesus is the Savior. But today we're going to talk about a third thing that Jesus is. And to some people, this one can be a little offensive. See, many people believe that truth doesn't really matter. Some people say that truth doesn't even exist. They say there is no way to know if anything is true for everyone. Well, as Christians, we kind of have a different belief on this perspective of truth. And tonight we're going to look at what that truth really is from our perspective as we believe in Jesus. See, this isn't a new debate. In fact, a man named Pontius Pilate seems to have engaged Jesus in the very debate just before Jesus was sentenced to death for crimes that he did not commit. And so I want us to look at John chapter 18, verses 33 through 38, and let's see how this encounter with Pontius Pilate and Jesus has to do with truth. So let's start at verse 33. This is what it says. Then Pilate went back into the headquarters, summoned Jesus, and said to him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Are you asking this on your own, or have you others told you about me?" "I'm not a Jew, am I?" Pilate replied. "Your own nation and the chief priests handed you over to me. What have you done?" "My kingdom is not of this world," said Jesus. "If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would fight so that I wouldn't be handed over to the Jews. As it is, my kingdom does not have its own origin here." "You are a king then?" Pilate asked. "You say that I'm a king," Jesus replied. "I was born for this, and I have come into the world for this. To testify to the truth. Everyone who is of the truth listens to my voice." "What is the truth?" said Pilate. After he had said this, he went out to the Jews again and told them, "I find no grounds for charging him." Here, let me explain to you what's going on right now. See, the religious leaders of the day wanted Jesus dead. Like we said 2 weeks ago, Jesus was claiming to be God, and that outraged the religious leaders. They could not stand the fact that Jesus claimed to be the living God. But they had a problem. See, the Pharisees, even though they didn't like Jesus, they had no grounds to arrest him and ultimately kill him. They couldn't do this. So what they do? They had to get the Roman government involved. So they brought Jesus to Pilate in hopes that Pilate would kind of kill Jesus on behalf of the Pharisees. And they wanted Pilate to see that, hey, look, this dude is saying that he's a god, right? That he's a king, and he's here to overthrow the Roman kingdom. And so Pilate asked Jesus, hey, they're saying you're a king. Are you saying you're a king? And Jesus is like, I never said that. I'm a king, but not of this world. You can't quite understand my kingdom. And so Jesus claiming to be a king. Pilate has a problem because this means that he would threaten Herod, who is the current king right now. And so Jesus asks him with a question, and then Jesus basically says, well, kind of, but I'm not a king here in this kingdom. And so Pilate is confused. So he just wants to know if Jesus' goal is to overthrow the king, but Jesus says his goal is something very different, to testify to the truth. And so Pilate asks, what is the truth? And there's some debate over what Pilate meant by this, right? So many people are wondering when Pilate asked this question, is he he really sincere about the truth? Was he suggesting that there's no such thing as truth? Or was he talking about Jesus' trial and impending death? So just suggesting that whether or not Jesus was truly guilty really didn't matter. He was probably going to get killed anyway. All these things were things that people have debated about when Pilate asked that question. And I'm not sure, but his question is still a good one. What is truth? It's not always easy to know what truth is. But in this case, Jesus makes it clear. He's saying that he is the truth, and he came to show the world what truth is. I told you earlier that what I had to say about Jesus today might be offensive. This claim is what makes Jesus different, but it's also what helped him get killed in the first place. See, Jesus claimed that he is truth, and those of us who trust in him still believe in that today. That truth isn't just an idea. Truth is a person. It's the first thing I want you to write down. That truth isn't an idea. That truth is a person. See, this isn't the first time that Jesus made this claim, though. Just a few chapters earlier, Jesus said something similar to his disciples. So let's look at John chapter 14, verses 1 through 7. And this is what Jesus said in these things while he's talking to his disciples. He says, your heart must not be troubled. Believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many dwelling places. If not, I would have told you. I am going away to prepare a place for you. If I go away and prepare a place for you, I will come back and receive you for myself, so that where I am, you may be also. You know the way to where I am going. Lord, Thomas said, we don't know where you're going. How can we know the way? Jesus told him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one came to the Father except through me. Jesus reveals the Father. If you know me, you will also know my Father. From now on, you know him and have seen him. See, Jesus' friends were a little upset because Jesus was starting to anger people where they went, and his bold and controversial teachings were putting their lives at risk. And to comfort them, Jesus let them know that he had a plan, that no matter what happened next, Jesus said that he would be going to his Father's house to prepare a place for them, a place where God God is and where they weren't invited to be also. See, Jesus' friends seemed a little stumped by this whole thing, since they don't know exactly where Jesus is going. Even Thomas asked, right? Jesus, how are we supposed to know where you're going? Like, there's no way. Like, how are we going to come where you're going if you don't tell us where you're going? Is there directions? Are you going to give us your iPhone with a GPS in it? How in the world are we supposed to know? But Jesus assures them that they do actually know the way because they know him. And he's the one true way to God. See, Jesus made a pretty bold claim in John 14, verse 6. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And if I'm being honest, I can't think of a lot of reasons, or I can think of a lot of reasons why someone might dislike the statement that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. Or that no one comes to God except through him. Here's what I find interesting about how Jesus talks about truth. Jesus didn't say, here is the way, the truth, and the life. You can get to the Father if you just do X, Y, and Z. He didn't hand them a list and say, if you just check off these boxes, then ultimately you can get to heaven. He didn't say that. Instead, Jesus says, I am the way. Jesus didn't give us a textbook filled with all the right answers. He gave us himself and invited us to get to know him. It's the second thing I need you to write down. Jesus gave us himself and invited us to get to know him. Maybe you're thinking, okay, fine. Jesus is truth, but what does that mean for me? Why does this matter? There's one more moment from the book of John that I want you to look at that I think is going to help you truly understand what Jesus is trying to say. And it's a short verse. It's John chapter 8, verse 32. And it says right here, you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. When we know Jesus, we know truth. And his truth sets us free. His truth sets us free. It sets us free from the power of sin and death. It sets us free from believing lies about God, ourselves, and others. It sets us free from anger and from guilt and from shame and from fear and from brokenness and from unforgiveness. And the list just keeps going on. It sets us free from anything else that keeps us captive. Jesus is truth, and his truth sets us free. Let me go home on this. There is so much that the truth of Jesus frees us from. Whether it's sin we've committed, whether it's lies we've believed, or brokenness that's holding us up captive, the truth of Jesus can set us free. Today, here's my invitation to you. If Jesus is truth and the true way to God, do you know him? If you don't, maybe today is the day that you want to begin the journey of getting to know Jesus a little bit better. If Jesus is truth and the truth sets us free, what do you need to do to be set free? And who do you need to know, or how do you need to know Jesus better so that he can set you free from those very things? Will you let the truth of Jesus set you free today? Some of you are really struggling with things, and you're allowing it to hold you down. You're allowing it to hold you in bondage. And Jesus is giving you the way out to you to better be set from that. And all you have to do is have a relationship with him. And he says, I will break those chains of bondage, those things that will hold you and keep you thinking that you're not good enough. Jesus says, I am the truth. Just know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Father, we love you. God, thank you for tonight. Thank you for the truth. God, thank you for your son who has the ability to set us free from our sin. Lord, I pray that if there's any student out there tonight, any parent, anybody watching this video, watching this stream, God, that just needs to be set free. Lord, I pray that you point them to Jesus and allow them to know him more and know him better so that he can begin to do the healing in their life that they need. We love you. We ask all these things in your son's name. Amen. Hey, thank you guys for joining me tonight. Hey, I'm learning. I know that y'all's attention spans are getting worse and worse, and you're getting more agitated the longer and longer you have to stay in this quarantine. I pray that these words were not long, but they touched you tonight and spoke some words of Jesus into your life that you've never heard before. So, love you guys. We'll still be here next week. We're almost there, guys. Things are starting to open up. We're getting back to a little bit normalcy, so hang in there. We're going to keep this thing rolling, and we'll see you soon. Love you guys. See you next week. Peace.